is a fascinating artifacts believed to be over 20,000 years old. This bone tool is engraved with a series of notches that many archaeologists interpret as evidence of early arithmetic operations.
You must see what Socrates said about the next generation. He said they have no respect, they don't stand up when elders come, they're not thinking straight, they're going to ruins. People always telling me, Sadhguru, you must come and work in Africa. I said, no, I will not work in Africa. Because if I want to go into Africa, I would like somebody to give me at least $5 billion before I enter Africa.
So my question to you, Sadhguru, is that there's so much suffering in the world. Like when I travel on work or otherwise, one observes that on the one hand, there is even lack of basic peace, or there's so much violence, and on the other hand, there is even lack of basic resources and abject poverty. So I would be curious to hear your perspective on why does every single person have such different starting points in life, which would mean like a child based in Africa doesn't even have water and is perhaps will die of malnutrition, has a very different starting point than, say, a billionaire's child who's perhaps sitting somewhere in the middle of North America. So why this disparity? And then how and where it sits in the larger scheme of things, or in the cycle of the cosmos or life, if there is, if that's how we call it. And also then that gets me to the question of then who are we?
That's a very Indian question. You must know, I must tell you this because you're also working at the UN. We were trekking in Tibet about 3 years ago. Every year we trek there. 3 years ago when I was going, there was people from over 40 countries trekking with me. So, one Indian person who lives in United States stood up to ask a question, and the question went on for over 8 minutes. You've been very brief. So the question was going on, and all this international audience, their heads were spinning because they're not grasping the question. Then I said, please relax, this is an Indian question. Because we have practiced asking questions for over 10,000–12,000 years. This is a nation where even when so-called divine entities came, they could not give us any commandments because all we had was questions. Relentless questioning. Then one Chinese lady who was working in United Nations for more than 30 years, she said, Sadhguru, even in those 30 years when I worked in United Nations, only Indians asked questions. Anyway, so why there is disparity? I thought you know the answer. There is disparity because those who have don't care about those who don't have. It's very simple. Those who have want to take more and more. Those who don't have, just don't have. There are various aspects. It found expression in many different ways, started with imperialism, and even now we're always seeing, every nation is seeing how we can take the maximum resource from everywhere else, isn't it? So, we know the source of the problem. What is the solution? The question. So, solution-wise, see, in 2016, they are telling me, some studies say, that in 2016 we produced enough food for 18.6 billion people. But we were only 7.1 billion people on that day. But still, 35% of the planet is malnourished. You were talking, you know the statistics better than me, you're in the United Nations. When we are producing 3 times more food than we actually need for the population, still 1/3 of the population is starving. Millions of children die of malnourishment all over. Not just in Africa, even in India. India has the highest malnourished population right now. You know, it's an evolutionary process. You know Charles Darwin? He told you that you were all monkeys, not me, okay? He told you were all monkeys and you became human. And today, the genetic scientists are saying that the difference between you and a chimpanzee in terms of DNA is only 1.23%. 1.23% is not much of a difference, isn't it? Huh? Hello? Not much of a difference, isn't it? So physiologically, that's how close we are to a chimpanzee. But in terms of our intelligence and awareness, we are worlds apart from a chimpanzee. Right now, largely, the first question started with that, largely our identities are still biological. If you say my race, it's biology. If you say my family, it's biology, isn't it? Largely, human identities are still biological. When you're biological, you're set within a small boundary. And when you're biological, your instinct of self-preservation is at its highest. In your intelligence or in your brain structure, there is something called as a reptilian brain, which is approximately the size of your fist here. So that is still working like a reptile, fixing boundaries all the time and trying to protect that boundary, which finds expression in so many different ways. But there's another dimension of intelligence, which is the cerebral cortex, which makes you a human being today, which thinks and struggles with these issues. If you were a tiger, you wouldn't care that, you know, a goat's child is hungry, you wouldn't care because after all it's your food, all right? But once you become a human being, you actually don't care, but still one part of you which makes you human makes you struggle. You need to empower that. As a humanity, we need to empower that your instinct of self-preservation must go down and the longing to expand, which is always there within us. See, today it is finding expression as ambition, conquest, or maybe simply shopping. What is this all about? You want to be something more than what you are right now, isn't it? Yes? Now the question is, if you become something more today, tomorrow are you fully settled? No, you want to be something more and something more and something more. So you seem to be going towards some kind of goal in installments. I'm asking you right now, how much more will settle you for good? What do you think? How much more? Suppose I make you the queen of this planet. Will you be fulfilled, I'm asking? I'm asking you. Don't look at me hopefully, I will not commit such a blunder. I will not commit such a blunder, but I'm asking you, suppose we put a throne on the North Pole and made you sit there, the queen of the planet, would you be fulfilled? No. You will look at the stars, you will look at the galaxies. This is the nature of the human being, because there is something in this human being that doesn't like boundaries, wants to expand limitlessly. But right now the consciousness is constipated. You know what's constipation? That means things happen little by little. You want to expand, but you want to do it in small measure, as if you're going to live here for 1,000,000 years. So you have to move, every human being, all these business students, you must move from your personal ambition to a larger vision. Ambition means constipated expression of growth. Vision means seamless expression of growth. This must happen to you. How much should you grow? You should not determine this. You must gas yourself fully, make yourself competent, enhance your competence, let's see how far it goes. Yes? Let us see how far it goes. Why should you fix the limit? Because whatever limits and whatever goals you set are just an exaggeration of what little you know today, isn't it so? Huh? Yes or no? Today what little you know, you are exaggerating it and thinking this is ambition. No, this is constipation. I know being in the university, now you passed out, being in the United Nations, you have much knowledge about many things. But all your knowledge, even if you have studied the libraries on this planet, all your knowledge is a minuscule compared to what this cosmic space is, isn't it? If you identify with this minuscule knowledge that you have, you will become a minuscule. Because you're such a minuscule, endlessly you will feel insecure about anything and everything that's happening to you. See, he lives in Brooklyn, still nobody stabbed him. What are you insecure about? In yoga, we have another system. We call this the intelligence of ignorance. We always identify with our ignorance because our knowledge is so small. Our ignorance is boundless. Yes or no? Huh? What we do not know is boundless, isn't it? What we know is so little. So you identify with what you do not know, then your life will expand rapidly. Your intelligence will stay alert through your life. If you identify with knowledge, your intelligence will sleep and you'll make a fool of yourself with a big degree. Yes, it's very important. If your human intelligence is on, it is very natural to be inclusive. If your reptilian brain is on, it is very natural to be exclusive, to put up walls. So as a human society, as nations, we have put up walls and walls and walls for everything, isn't it? The very damn marketplace is a big wall, it's a Wall Street, all right. The markets are controlled so that everybody does not thrive. Yes or no? Markets are controlled, industry is controlled so that everybody does not thrive. Anyway, you didn't ask me what happened to this food that we grow for 18.6 billion people. You must find out, you're in the UN. You must find out, all of you must find out why we produce food 3 times than what we need and still 1/3 of the humanity is starving. Why? Shouldn't your humanity want to find out? Please, you must find out.
My question is actually also about identity. You've spoken about the need or kind of the benefit of detaching from a biological identity. And I'm curious, I think there's a lot of people in the room and this question kind of came up again and again. If somebody wants to kind of to act positively in society, there's an instinct to start from that biological community, from the people that you identify with biologically. And since you've spoken about that need to detach from that identity, where do you suggest, like, what's the alternative to starting from that biological community? And maybe I've understood you the wrong way, because I see you shaking your head.
See, I did not ever say you should detach yourself from biological identity. Instead of seeing your mother, father, brothers, sisters and whatever, the larger family, as your biological identity, why don't you see that they are the first people that you have access to? You can work most effectively only where you have access and acceptance, isn't it? People are always telling me, Sadhguru, you must come and work in Africa. I said, no, I will not work in Africa. Because if I want to go into Africa, I would like somebody to give me at least $5 billion before I enter Africa, because without that hand-holding, you can't make a difference there. You cannot. You will go there and waste your life, nothing will happen. I work in India, because in India, if you give me $10, I will make it into $1,000 in effect, because I have access and acceptance with the people. This is not because of my nationality I work in India, simply because the access and acceptance is so good that if you give me $10, I will make it into $1,000. But if I go to Africa, if you give me $100, it'll become $1. because there is no access and acceptance out there. And the problem there is of a different nature. It's a completely different nature. So where you choose to work is not a question of your nationality or your ethnicity or your family. Where you have access and acceptance, that's where you must start, otherwise you'll just waste your time and energy. Because life is just a combination of time and energy, isn't it? Limited amount of time, limited amount of energy. If you run into walls here and there, time and energy will go and your life will go. It's very important you run through the door, not through the wall. Yes? Where there is openness, there you go. Then you want to turn around and come there, that's a different matter. But you must always start work where there is acceptance and access. Without access, what will you do? You'll just beat your head on the wall. And if you have a great idea, if you cannot even sell it to your family, you're not going to sell it to anybody.
The last thing we're going to close with for Youth and Truth is, what worries you the most about the youth of tomorrow?
What?
What worries you the most?
Oh, I'm not the worrying kind. Because this nonsense that every generation is worried about the next generation, I'm not that kind. The previous generation was worried about me. And they didn't know a thing about me, they just worried about me. I'm not worrying about you. I'm not, because I know with all your madness, you'll figure out things as things go by. It's being worried about the next generation always is a ancient malady. You must see what Socrates said about the next generation. He said they have no respect, they don't stand up when elders come, they're not thinking straight, they're going to ruins. Well, 2000, 3000 years ago, the guy is talking the same thing. Time to change that. I'm not worried about you, because I see for the first time in the history of humanity, this generation is empowered in ways that nobody had imagined possible, yes? Our survival is better organized than ever before. And if we want to change the world, no better time, because I want you to recognize this, because many great beings have come right from ancient times. In their own… every generation had their greats. But even if they raised their voice and spoke, hardly 25 people heard. Today, if you have something sensible to say, you can say it to the whole damn world. Do not underestimate that. So one thing you should do as business people and young people is clean up that space a little bit. All kinds of idiots are saying things loudly, sane things are not really getting across, yes? Because still social media, I feel, will mature. Probably in the next 5–10 years, people will know how to filter it. But there is a concern, because the way we are using these technologies against ourselves and against everybody else. When I say against, there are many things. They're telling me 70% of the data is pornography, and they're telling me on the internet, over 1.2 million children below 15 years of age are being sold for all kinds of filthy things. I think as a society, as human beings, when we start selling our children, that means we've hit the bottom. What do you think? Hello? We really hit the bottom, isn't it? So, these are things that young people can change. I'm just saying, how many in this campus?
5,000.
5,000 people. If 5,000 people meet and you're determined, you want to change the language and the direction of what's happening on the internet, believe me, you can do it. 5,000 people, if you get active, just do it. Let's make it happen.
Here are the 5 unknown facts about the African culture and their people. Ancient mathematics. The Ishango bone found near the headwaters of the Nile River is a fascinating artifact believed to be over 20,000 years old. This bone tool is engraved with a series of notches that many archaeologists interpret as evidence of early arithmetic operations. The notches are grouped in ways that suggest addition, subtraction, and possibly multiplication or division. Some scholars even propose that the notches could represent a form of lunar calendar, demonstrating that early African societies had sophisticated knowledge of both mathematics and astronomy long before such concepts were widely understood elsewhere. Unique writing systems. Africa has produced several indigenous writing systems beyond the well-known Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Sibdi script used by the Ikpe society in southeastern Nigeria consists of ideographic and logographic symbols that convey complex messages and stories. This script is still used in ceremonial contexts. Similarly, the Y script of Liberia, invented by Momolu Duwalu Bukele in the early 19th century, is one of the few indigenous scripts in Africa developed without outside influence. It remains in use for writing the Y language, showcasing the ingenuity and adaptability of African peoples in developing their methods of written communication. Traditional music therapy. Music therapy in African cultures is a holistic practice that integrates healing with community and spiritual activities. In many African societies, drumming is believed to have the power to communicate with the spiritual world, and certain rhythms are thought to summon specific deities or ancestral spirits. Healing ceremonies often involve the entire community, with music, dance, and chants used to create a trance-like state that facilitates healing. The use of music to treat mental and physical ailments highlights the deep connection between cultural practices and health in African societies. Intricate hair artistry. Hairdressing in African cultures is not only a personal expression but also a reflection of cultural heritage and social identity. The Himba people of Namibia are known for their distinctive hairstyles, which are created using a mixture of red ochre, butter, and herbs. These styles are not only aesthetic but also convey social information such as age, marital status, and rites of passage. Similarly, the Fulani women of West Africa wear intricate braids adorned with beads and cowrie shells, signifying their cultural identity and social status. These elaborate hairstyles are passed down through generations and remain an important part of cultural expression. Architectural ingenuity. African architecture includes numerous impressive and innovative structures that reflect the continent's rich cultural and historical heritage. The Great Zimbabwe ruins, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, consist of impressive stone walls and towers constructed without mortar. These ruins are a testament to the advanced engineering skills of the Shona people. In Mali, the Great Mosque of Dine, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is the largest mud brick building in the world. It is an outstanding example of Sudano-Sahelian architecture, featuring a unique blend of Islamic and local African design elements. These structures illustrate the creativity and resourcefulness of African architects in responding to their environment and cultural needs. These expanded details provide a deeper understanding of the richness and diversity of African culture, highlighting its contributions to global heritage and knowledge.